Unbelievable.
For the North Dakota State Bison.
We asked you and told you what perfection looks and feels and sounds like. Well, you're looking at it right now. Ben DiNucci's afternoon ends in defeat. They're the first team since Yale to finish perfect, 16-0, since 1894.
Okay, so yeah, they've won 8 out of the last 9, Herbie, and their dominance look to continue their dominance this upcoming Saturday, the tournament. I'm getting excited for it. George Bashera, Chris Heidel, I'm Euan McCreath. Welcome to the Herbie and Uski show. Oh, great, Herbie. I thought you were frozen for a second, buddy.
It's a snow that blew through the Baltimore area today. You just
right,
can't handle it.
I know, exactly. So let's bring Jeff Cohan, who is the voice of the Bison, of North Dakota, getting ready for this big game against Eastern Washington. Eastern Washington, Jeff, is actually 2-1 against you guys in the playoffs. Except for that one, you beat them in 2019 in the championship game.
2-1 in the play. First of all, good to be on with you guys. Thanks for having me here. Actually, I think we're 1-1, aren't we?
1-1? I don't know. I was doing the research yesterday, and I thought it said 2-1, but I could be wrong. I was trying to
lost to them in the quarterfinals in 2010, and then we would have played them in the title game after the 2018 season. So I believe it's 1-1 overall.
Okay.
But hey, one game. It's all good.
Yeah. Right on, Jeff. I'll jump in here. Sorry, Herbie. North Dakota State. First of all, they've been here before. This is a team used to the spotlight and used to winning at that. It was interesting. I found out that when they allow less than 170 rushing yards, they're 5-0. But when they allow over that, they're 0-2. What do you foresee on the ground happening this weekend, Jeff?
Well, it's great question, because Eastern Washington is a team that hasn't shown a run first mentality, right? They want to get up tempo. They want to run a lot of plays. They're the top total offense team in all of FCS college football, and the number 3 passing offense team in all of FCS college football as well. Doesn't mean they can't do it. I mean, Eric Barriere is a more than capable runner at quarterback. He has not shown a ton of that in this spring season, but he is the all-time leading quarterback rusher in Eastern Washington history, passing Vernon Adams' number previously. I believe Eric is just over 1,300 rushing yards in his career. And Tamarick Pierce and Dennis Merritt are 2 outstanding running backs that have been very good. And Pierce actually scored a touchdown against NDSU in the Fargo Dome in 2016. And Merritt had a big week last week in their come-from-behind win. You're watching the highlights here against Idaho, and scored 3 touchdowns in the game, 2 of them in the fourth quarter to fuel the come-from-behind win over the Vandals. So, that 170 number is I heard that from Larry Weir earlier this week as well, my good buddy at Eastern Washington, their play-by-play guy. Running the football really important. Quite honestly, the 170 number, that Southern Illinois game back in February, we just got beat up, pretty badly by the Salukis. They got after us pretty good. And then last weekend was a tough emotional one, losing to South Dakota State. They kind of NDSU'd NDSU last weekend with the way they played up here in the Fargo Dome. So, I don't know if 170 is the number you're looking for in this game. But I'm more interested to see what Eastern Washington does throwing the football on the turf of the Fargo Dome with only 25% capacity, and with a guy in Eric Barriere who I think could win the Walter Payton Award winner trophy. Excuse me.
George? Unmute yourself, George. There you go.
Yeah, trying. Yeah. You think I have this Zoom thing down by now? I'm not even going to talk about the press conference the other day. With all this activity, I mean, football is a fall sport, and teams are playing into the spring. Have you heard how it's affecting their spring? I mean, is this part of the season going to be like their spring training that they would typically just be doing, getting ready for the next season?
Yeah, no doubt, George. Absolutely. I mean, this is around the time where spring football practices and the spring games usually take place, right? Middle of April. And so, yeah, I think that's certainly the case. It's a little more intense. It's a situation where you're obviously playing competitive games and you're playing against teams that count. The wins and losses count across the board. And so the big concern, I think, is having to start the season on time next fall. And that's certainly a question I know a lot of coaches have, is the beginning Labor Day weekend with the regular season. How do you approach these next few months? I mean, if you make it all the way to Frisco, it's May the 16th, and you are, 2.5 months away from fall camp starting. So is that enough time for the offensive and defensive linemen to heal? Is that enough time for your typical injuries you'd have the offseason to have surgery and recover from to get some of these guys back? So that's been definitely a talking point around the division throughout the spring period.
Yeah, that's true. And it also has been helping out your quarterback because he's getting noticed a lot in the NFL draft, and he's been doing a lot of pro days and everything else in between the season. So, I guess that helps his stock up with the, this coming draft next week.
I wish he was playing on Saturday, Herbie, to be honest with you. But, his ascension, Trey Lance, has been phenomenal. We played the highlight of that FCS National Championship game to start the segment. And, in the booth on that January afternoon in Frisco, Texas, we all thought we were going to have Trey Lance for 3 more years, at minimum 2 more years. And then the pandemic hit, and his star began to brighten and began to shine in the conversation with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. And I think for me, when I realized that we probably weren't going to have Trey Lance much longer, is when Daniel Jeremiah of the Move the Sticks podcast and NFL Network, ESPN, you'll see him on the draft on Thursday. He had Trey Lance rated as his number 1 quarterback, number 1 period, ahead of Lawrence and Fields last summer of quarterbacks eligible to come out for the NFL draft. And so when that happened, it was like, oh boy, this is getting real, and we may have to start thinking about the future without number 5 for 3 seasons that like we thought he had. And so we didn't get any games in the fall. Obviously, we had the 1 game against Central Arkansas, and Trey declared for the draft that Monday after. And it's been fun to follow him through the process. He's been great. Pro days. He's showing everybody around the NFL what we got a chance to see for about 2 years here in Fargo.
You're on mute, Euan.
I can't. Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, my bad. I know, rookie mistake.
All good.
Hey, Jeff, this Eastern Washington team, they could put up points, as you mentioned. Do you think that the mindset of North Dakota State is a little maybe different playing this team? Maybe I noticed that in 3 of their 7 games, they average over 200 yards on the ground. They have that great offensive line. So now I'm going to ask you to flip the script. How do the Bison work out on the ground against an Eastern Washington team that has been challenged thus far to stop the run?
Yeah, and that's the other component, right? I think to the success for NDSU in this game, they have to be NDSU offensively. They have to be able to run the football and own time of possession. We didn't see that against South Dakota State. We didn't see that against Southern Illinois in the 2 losses here in this spring period. But our best game, guys, was against UND, was against North Dakota. And that was back on March the 20th. And UND was coming in with a lot of hype. It was a big game in our state with 2 old Division II rivals. And, that series is starting to ramp up now in the Division I era with UND finally in the same conference, in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. And NDSU played their best brand of football. It was the most Bison-like performance of the spring. They ran the ball for over 300 yards. They slowed down UND on the ground. They forced some turnovers as well, which has been something that's been actually at a premium for NDSU in the spring, which has been a surprise. So no question about it. The Bison have to run the football in this game. They have to keep the ball away from Eric Barriere in this Eastern Washington offense. I think perfect world, you get up early. Everybody wants to get up early, right? Get to a great start. But if you're able to get up 7-0, 10-0, put Eastern on their heels a little bit and force the Eagles to play catch up, that gives you maybe a little bit of momentum that you're looking for in this contest. The last thing you want to do is get into a scoring match with these guys, because that's where they want to put you. They want to make it a game in the 40s. That's not how NDSU wants to play this game. It needs to be a time of possession of near 35 minutes or more in this contest for the Bison. And that's what we've seen in the last 2 meetings between these 2 teams, right near 40 minutes time of possession, if not more, from NDSU in the 2 wins in 2017 and in the national championship after the 2018 season.
So, Jeff, with all this COVID activity and, your season's going on, and unfortunately out here in the Midwest, right, numbers are starting to rise again. How is it for the team to, have these difficulties of trying to weather the fall and not play and deal with COVID, and now it's continuing on, and you're not escaping it right now.
Yeah, it's been tough. I think all of us have had some, have had our own frustrations with this thing, right? I mean, we've all mentally gone through, whether it's, we like to be in control of the situation, or we want to go and, go out and have dinner or do our own thing. And I mean, think about when we were 18 to 22 years old. I mean, I wouldn't have handled this very well, I promise you guys, when I was in that college age bracket. And so it's been a test daily for, I think, everybody in that age bracket. And for student athletes, it's a different level of accountability. The last thing you want to do is get a COVID positive test and shut your team down for a weekend. I can imagine the stress of that, let alone, trying to do all the right things. You're being told to do this, do that, be here, be there. You can't see your family anymore. You can't go celebrate a win after a Saturday. The atmosphere is different inside the Fargo Dome. It's not quite the same as a normal year. So it has definitely been taxing mentally, not only on NDSU guys, but I think on all of these teams that want to play and want to do it the right way. And I tip my cap to the coaches, student athletes, administrators, and honestly, sports medicine staff and trainers, medical personnel that have helped help make this season possible for everybody around college football in the FCS.
And Jeff, luckily, you look at the Division I football. There really were no teams that were hit with the COVID deal. But you start looking into what happened this year in hockey, volleyball. It was taking teams out. A team that won their division can't play. A team that was filling a spot for a team that couldn't play got pulled, as in Notre Dame hockey.
Yeah.
And then volleyball, there was no women's volleyball. There was players and teams being pulled from that. So it's you got to keep it at a distance, and it's hard to manage that.
Yeah, no question. VCU and the NCAA men's basketball tournament as well. Yep. Michigan was actually here in Fargo for hockey, and they got knocked out while they were here in Fargo with a positive COVID test. And so, that's you cross your fingers as much as you try to do the right things, we get examples every day of how out of control this thing is, and you're just trying to do everything that's right to make sure you can be safe, be healthy, and keep your team on the field. Eastern Washington is arriving a day early. All the teams that travel are arriving a day earlier than normal to go through the NCAA testing protocols. And, I know the Bison had their initial round of testing Wednesday. That all checked out great. So, fingers crossed for everybody throughout the country that we can play all these games and that everybody's able to be COVID-free so we can work through this bracket without any hiccups.
It's literally just stay healthy.
Exactly. I agree. Everybody, and make sure you get your vaccines, if you get a chance to do it, because I got my 2 and I'm all set and ready to go. And hopefully you guys are all ready to go as well. And Jeff, thanks so much for coming on this evening. Good luck with the broadcast on Saturday. And it's going to be fun. Hopefully this is a fun way to spend your spring football, to watch real football instead of that, couple points on the field and that weird point system they do all the time.
Running clocks.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me. Have me back anytime. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's bring that. That's Jeff, the voice of the Bison of North Dakota. So North Dakota State there. So folks, thanks for joining us. We had a little hiccup here in the office. So I'm on my cell phone, but we're good to go. Yeah. So let's bring in the next broadcaster at 7 o'clock, Steve Kalaki, who is the voice of Weber State. Let's bring him in. Add him to the screen.
There we go.
There is Steve. Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for coming on. And how's the weather out there in Salt Lake City?
Well, let's take a look right now. I'm in my booth at the ballpark where my full-time job is, and obviously sunshine, snow on the mountains, and it's supposed to be 70 degrees at kickoff.
Wow. That's fantastic. So let's talk about this game for Weber State. They actually won the Big Sky Conference outright for the first time, and now they're home and taking on a playoff game. They haven't lost a playoff game or a home game since Maine beat them a couple years ago.
Right. It's been a season, a very interesting one from the standpoint that if a Wildcat fan is a nail biter, they're probably down to their second knuckle by now, because the last 4 games have been won by 5 points or less. The Hail Mary victory over Northern Arizona on the last play of the game, game-winning touchdown with 2 minutes left in their last game against Idaho State, struggles down at Southern Utah as well, and against UC Davis. A lot of close games. The only lopsided game was the opener, but that's when the team was healthy. This is a team that's been ravaged by injuries, yet have managed to stay unbeaten.
Yeah, Steve, I wanted to ask you about, those 4 of the 5 wins by 5 points or less. We always talk to coaches, especially in the offseason, about those tight wins or tight losses. What have you seen from this team in the fourth quarter that allows them to propel and execute at a higher level and come out with close victories?
It's just an amazing resiliency, because by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, you're really not sure who's going to be out there. Like I say, we've been without 5 or 6 starters on defense. The offensive line is banged up. Starting quarterbacks played the last 3 games with a broken bone in his left wrist, fortunately not his throwing hand. So it's been interesting to see these guys have the resolve in the fourth quarter. Every team in college football, and even in the NFL to a certain extent, they all raise their 4 fingers at the end of the third quarter, hey, the fourth quarter is ours. But that's been the case for Weber State. They've been really able to do a great job in that fourth quarter and get what they had to get the victory. And you sometimes that last drive, for example, that gave them the victory against Idaho State, you have to wonder, where was this the rest of the game? But they came through when they needed to.
So with this, right, you're wanting to be on the golf course at this time of the year, right? You're through football, you're through basketball, and now you see yourself sitting here getting ready for a football game. What has it been like, playing football this spring versus, playing in the fall? Calling games in the spring versus the fall.
The best part about it is the fact that, and I joked with Jay Hill about this at the start of the year, this is going to be the only football season where the weather gets better as the season goes on. I mean, like I say, 70 degrees on Saturday. And if we were fortunate enough to win and likely play South Dakota State, I'd rather go to Brookings in the first weekend of May than in the first weekend of December. There's no doubt about that. So I think that's been part of it. And, it's kind of filled the gap for me, because normally this time of the year, I'm already into my AAA baseball season with the Salt Lake Bees, which is why I'm at the ballpark here today. Everything was pushed back a month, so it gives me something to do until then.
Nice. That's true. Well, Steve, talk about Southern Illinois coming in. This is their first appearance in the playoffs since 2009. They're 5-3 in the Missouri Valley Conference, and basically they're fourth in the nation on third down conversions. So is that something that Coach Weber State needs to focus on to get them to 3 and out, and they can go punt the football?
Yeah, exactly. They need to keep the defense off the field as much as possible. I'm just taking a look at the numbers right now for the Wildcats. They've limited the opposition this year to 33% success rate on third down conversion. So that's a pretty good number. So it's going to be a battle of strengths when you get to third down. Obviously, you want to make it 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. You don't want it to be 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3. I think that's going to be a key for the Wildcats on defense. But, Southern Illinois comes at you many different ways. They're able to go ahead and run the football against you, and since they made the quarterback change in week 5, they've been able to throw the ball a lot better and a lot more, and they've protected the ball a lot better, I should say, down the stretch than they did early in the season. So they're going to come at you. They actually do remind me a lot, watching some of the stuff and looking at some of the numbers of that Maine team that came to Ogden and upset the Wildcats a couple of years ago.
George, you're up.
You did it again. Yep. You got
Turn your volume on, buddy.
It's been quite the week.
It's okay. But try again. Go ahead.
So how has the team handled this whole COVID activity and in their preparation, for these late season games? They've had to deal with it. They've had to sit out, and do all this other stuff. And now it's what we thought was going to be gone away by now. It's still hanging.
Yeah, I mean, personal responsibility is something that Jay Hill has talked about, and the players have done a great job. I don't believe there have been any COVID cases involving the Wildcats. Their only postponement and eventual cancellation was because of Cal Poly, the first game being postponed. By the time they were going to make it up, it was a program that was shut down. So they've done a fantastic job, as did the basketball team, to stay away, do what you had to do to keep from getting it, and then knock on wood, they've been pretty good at it so far.
Steve, give us one key to the game that if you say Weber State can do this in this facet or can reach this number of rushing or whatever it is, give us one key to the game that's going to propel Weber State to a victory.
I think it's going to be the turnovers. The Wildcats are a team under Jay Hill over the last few years who have been dominant in winning the turnover battle. That hasn't been the case this year. They're only a +3 at this point, but Southern Illinois is -8. They have had a propensity to turn over the football. As a matter of fact, the Wildcats have scored 27 points on the season off of opponent turnovers, but Southern Illinois has allowed 74 points to the opposition when they've turned the football over. So I think if the Wildcats can take advantage of that and force a couple of turnovers, whether it be the fumble or the interception, although, like I say, the new quarterback that they have has only thrown 1 pick in the last 6 games as opposed to his two predecessors, I think that wins the football game for the Wildcats.
That's true. Yeah, Steve. Well, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I know you're dying for some minor league baseball. Hey, we got a week or 2 more weeks, and then everybody should be up and running. And did Salt Lake City? Did they get transferred to a new affiliation, or are they still the same one?
We're still with the Angels. We've been with the Angels now for 20 years after 7 years with Minnesota. And obviously there's no such thing as the Pacific Coast League anymore. It's now AAA West. And instead of 16 teams, it's a 10-team league.
Yeah, no, we have Aberdeen here, and it's called High A Northeast. I'm like, Okay, and then you got the it used to be the Eastern League with Bowie. There's no word for Eastern League anymore. It's like Northeast or whatever. I'm like, okay, let's get back to
there will be a word at some time, but it's going to be a corporate sponsor. They're trying to sell corporate sponsorships to each league and each division.
Jeez, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, Steve, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully, enjoy the weather out there, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Enjoy that
Thank you so much.
I will.
All right. Let's see who's on the. That's Ryan on there. Let's him from the stream here. All right, folks. Thanks for coming on to this evening. A special edition of the Uski and Herbie show. We're doing the playoff edition, the subdivision of with Delaware and North Dakota State and all that stuff. We'll be back here next week as well, doing another show in the morning because the morning's been working really well. So let's just bring out. We'll see the schedule here coming up. We got at 7:15. We're supposed to get Julius Chestnut. Euan, he's from Bowie, Maryland. He's playing for Sacred Heart football. They're going into Delaware this weekend to play the Blue Hens, and they haven't played Delaware since 2014, and they beat Delaware at their own field.
You know what? I'm looking forward to this matchup. This kid can flat out run. I looked at some of his highlights on YouTube. I mean, there's nothing that this kid can't do running the football, George.
Yeah, here's some little highlights here. I got some of his runs here. Look at it. Man, he can move. Yeah, it's like what? Yeah, look at it. It's like he's from the state of Maryland, and he's down in Bowie, from Bowie, Maryland. What happened to my with Maryland and everybody else? They should pick him up and say, "Hey, give him a scholarship." Yeah, come on, people. You know, you're losing good talent. Yeah, that's like
the kid lose the state.
How this kid isn't playing in the Power 5 is beyond me.
I know. He should be playing in the Power 5 because he has some good moves there. So, he knows what he's doing. So, folks, thanks for joining us. I'm trying to see if we got Jerry. I think, let me see who's that. Jerry Stringham? I have no idea who that is. So, we'll figure that out. So, 7:12 here on a Thursday. Let me try to find out who that is. Let's just tell you, Delaware. Little stuff about Delaware versus Delaware hasn't won a postseason game, folks, since 2010 when they beat Georgia Southern 27-10 at Delaware Stadium. So they've been losing a lot of playoff games since when I think that's before Joe Flacco. After Flacco.
The Blue Hens, man, I love them.
Yeah, and Euan, their helmets look like the Michigan Wolverines.
You know what? It's crazy because I had to do a double take when I first saw it, George.
Yeah, it's like you're like looking at it going, "What?" I was like, "Why do they look like the Michigan Wolverines?" And why does Michigan haven't said anything? And I'm like, "Hey, that's the copyright infringement." Yeah, they should be. Yeah, but anyway,
so haven't realized it yet.
Yeah, so we're waiting for him at 7:15, and then around 7:30, Ryan Collingwood from Spokane News and Spokane and Review up there in beautiful Eastern Washington will be joining us to talk Eastern Washington football, and then at 7:45, Mike Paris will be joining us. He covers Jacksonville State football, who we had on earlier this year when they took on my Seminoles, and they gave the Seminoles a ride in the first half. This guy was sweating bullets at halftime, and
Herbie was on suicide watch, George.
Exactly.
That game.
Exactly. And then at 8:00, Tom Deutsch, who is the North Dakota broadcaster, one of the broadcasters, we'll talk North Dakota football. And then around 8:00, we'll have Matt Present, who covers Davison. Davison football is doing really well this year. Davison, you think Davison College. You think Steph Curry, right. Basketball,
right.
And football team's actually doing a fantastic job this year. And then at 8:30, we'll try to wrap it up with Kurt Gutley, my good friend from Harrisonburg, Virginia, who covers. He does a lot of JMU broadcasts. He will talk JMU football because JMU is taking on BMI on Saturday down there in beautiful Harrisonburg, Virginia. So let me see if I can bring somebody in here. Let me put myself on mute and see what's going on here. Okay.
That sounds good, Herbie. I'll be talking with George. George, when's the next time you're going to get one of those $600 haircuts, pal?
It's going to be a couple weeks.
George, we got to flavor it up with you, man. You got the boots, you got the hat. Like, I got nothing, but you got all the tools. You got to start wearing props, George.
Start wearing props. I definitely can work on that.
You know,
Definitely can.
or do you have an authentic Irish helmet?
Um,
I mean, can we do?
I
Can
have.
we do? Oh yeah, this is the view that I'm looking for here. Oh, you got the hat on a little like
Tripod.
Yeah. Nothing's happening to that puppy. You got to go out of your way to hurt that hat, man. That hat that's borderline legendary already. I think one show, Herbie, we should show up with all of us wearing helmets.
Exactly.
Do you actually have a helmet, George?
No, that's actually a replica. It's got Lou Holtz's signature though.
Oh, nice.
Oh, you don't want to touch that. Don't touch that. That's that's money, man. That's money.
I do. I actually have a picture though. I would have to find it. A buddy of mine, when Giants were playing in the Super Bowl back some time ago, had an authentic New York Giants football helmet, and there's a picture with me wearing it.
Oh, that's cool, George. George, you're a good man. Hey, did you eat early dinner tonight? I'm already starving.
Nope. I actually ate before we came on the air.
Nice. What was for dinner tonight? Ribs and potato?
No. It was a chicken something in an egg roll shell.
Oh, okay.
I'm
something from Chili's.
What's
pretty
that?
much something like Chili's. You know, their Southwestern egg roll thing.
Pretty much.
Oh, George, I want to ask you and Herbie a question. The biggest sleeper in the draft, a quarterback. Who's he going to be? Herbie, let's start with you. Who do you think that whose name's not Trevor Lawrence? Who's going to be the best quarterback in this draft?
Well, I truly think it's the guy from from Alabama, Matt Jones.
Wow.
You know why? Because they're keeping it quiet. Okay, yes, Trevor Lawrence won a national title. Yes, that's great. But Matt Jones had he had great wide receivers. He had a great system in Nick Saban, and he came out of nowhere. This time last year, you're like, Matt Jones? Is that a law firm guy? You know, like you don't even, like you're wondering, but I feel like that's what, they have to do. And in wide receiver department, I think if you're the Baltimore Ravens, they're talking about they want to like an edge rush and rusher or, pass, quarterback, sack the quarterback. Get that wide receiver if he's still around from Alabama, the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, George, you know what? I was surprised. He's getting a lot of slack. He weighed in at 166 pounds, and some scouts were talking a little bit about his weight, and they were, mentioning that not a lot of people play this game at 166 pounds. George, your thoughts first on the quarterback?
Oh boy, my sleeper. You know what? It's going to be weird. That kid Caleb Farley.
Okay. What school did he play? What school did he play at?
Virginia Tech.
Oh, okay. Well, the problem is I didn't hear most of them this year because I think he did okay, but I think he was still in Coach Valente's doghouse.
Well, yeah. I think the biggest surprise is going to, if you're looking for a big surprise, I actually want to say Justin Fields. I don't think it's going to go well for him. Finding out that the kid has epilepsy, that's a tough thing to deal with.
It is.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very sad.
It is sad. It's sad. Well, let's bring in Ryan. He's sitting there patiently in the bullpen here. I know he's enjoying himself. Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining us this evening. How's life up there in Eastern Washington? Looks like it's a very nice day out there. Is it everybody going to get nice weather except for us? Because we're getting that snow stuff that this guy right here, George, had the other night, sir. Yeah. How's the weather going?
I actually live in North Idaho, which is like right by Eastern Washington. I commute, but It's great. Sunny outside. It has an early summer feel already. It's kind of rare because it gets pretty damn cold out here, which you guys kind of know out in the Northeast. So
Exactly. Well, let's just talk about this game against North Dakota State. You guys this is a familiar foe because you guys played them a lot in the postseason. I think you guys played them in 2019 in the title game. You guys lost to them down there in Frisco, Texas, but that was a couple of years ago. This is this year now. They don't have their quarterback who is going to be in the NFL draft this time next week.
Nah, obviously North Dakota State's a different team, but it's still North Dakota State. I mean, they're still disciplined. They're still physical. They've still got a lot of tradition and confidence. Right? I'm looking at highlights at Easton Stick, kind of taking it to Eastern right there. But and obviously Trey Lance is the quarterback after this game, and he's probably going to be a first-round draft pick. They have a couple other guys who are probably going to be in the top 50 in the NFL draft coming up next week. So. They're a very talented bunch typically, and they still are. They kind of had some holds and experience, but I still expect when Eastern goes there on Saturday, I'm still expecting North Dakota State to be a pretty formidable opponent.
Yeah, you know what, Ryan? I got to tell you, I've watched some tape on this quarterback, Eric Barriere. And there's really nothing this guy can't do. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten, of course, it's the FCS, but I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a little bit more love. His numbers are very impressive. What has it impressed you about his play this season thus far?
He's getting better as a passer. I think his first year and a half, he was kind of acting more on instinct, kind of, like freewheeling like a high school quarterback. Personally, I think he's best when he does kind of tuck it more in the RPO. But I think what's impressed me, like you asked, I think his progressions are better. I still want to see him face a really good defense. That's kind of what I'm kind of excited about Saturday because the Big Sky, the teams they played this year weren't very good in that league. Obviously, eight of the 13 teams played. So the teams like Montana State, they didn't play, and Eastern didn't play Weber State either. Weber State won the league, so Eastern they didn't play each other. So, but Eric's obviously a talent. He can do things with his arm and his legs, and nice kid. Not very big. I think it's like 5'10", 5'11" range. So, doesn't play against the best teams. So between his size and the competition, you kind of understand why he maybe doesn't get as much as a pro looks that you'd think.
George, you hit the microphone again.
Trying to prevent the feedback. What is the magic stat that you guys need to come out with a win over North Dakota State?
I think the ground control. I think North Dakota State doesn't have some of those dudes that they usually have, but they still have a pretty efficient ground game. And what that ground game can do is keep Barriere off the field. If you keep Barriere off the field and can still, chug it up and get some points, Eastern's going to be kind of screwed, I think. So the magic stat, like you mentioned, would be keeping, just forcing North Dakota State into some 3-and-outs and get them off the field quick, stuff that run game. The thing is, Eastern's run defense isn't that great, to be honest, and they're kind of shorthanded. They got some guys who were hurt, transfer portal guys. So I think the run game, Eastern's run defense will determine a lot on Saturday.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, talk about playing in the spring. Is this really helping out the Eastern Washington squad for next year, for next fall? Because when you play until May, and then you got a couple months off and you're back at it in August for fall camp. So this literally helps out the coaching staff. Yeah,
I mean, it's, at the beginning I was kind of skeptical. I was like, you might as well just wait another few more months. But at the end of the day, it's a free year. If you can get out of if you can get out of this thing healthy, these are young, resilient, strong kids. These aren't like a bunch of schlubs who can't handle not getting ready in a few more months. So I think it'll help them. I think this helps a lot of those mediocre kind of teams too, who don't know where they're at positions. Obviously, Eastern's not a mediocre team. I think they're above average this year. I don't know if they're a national championship team. I mean, we'll see quick this Saturday, but it's just, but to be honest, I can't really gauge much. I don't know who the hell is really good or what, between all the opt-outs and injuries and some teams sandbagging it, some teams going all. I have no idea who really is legitimate right now. I have an idea, but as far as teams kind of being as good as Eastern North Dakota State, I think this will help the spring. I think it will help. It helps those fringe guys get better. Helps the inexperienced guys get better because really it's inconsequential. The spring season is, but you get your guys some reps in the fall. I think that'll be good. But then again, there have been some season-ending injuries I've seen this year where guys got hurt so bad they probably won't even play. They probably won't even be playing in September, October either. So there's those, but that's just the risky take playing football.
That's
so
true.
Ryan, you made a great point there about the transfer portal. Let's talk about that for a second. I know that I've read some stuff where supposedly the teams are being lured away and told to be going into the transfer portal. What are your thoughts? I mean, my thoughts on the portal is it's kind of an easy way out. But some guys make the best of it and they go on and they do great. What are your thoughts?
I think if you life is short and there's two sides of the coin. Life is short, and if you think you can make that upward move and make that leap to maybe to a Power 5 or a FBS and FCS, go for it. I mean, especially if you've already done all you can do at that level. You're a guy who was a proven commodity in the FCS for a couple of years. That's your stock. People know what you could do at that level. If you have a year, an eligibility or two, and it seems you talk to the right people in your ear about making that jump, go for it. Life's short, do it. But then there's a lot of guys who aren't good enough for that jump, and they do it, and they're kind of screwed. So it's kind of that's life. It's a gamble. It's like anything else. You got to bet on yourself sometimes, and some of these guys do, and it works out. Some they do it, and it doesn't. So. But it definitely changed the complexion of the game, and these smaller schools like Eastern. I mean, they're going to lose. They're losing the people. They're getting poached. I mean, basically, it's those small conferences, those low major conferences for football. They were basically junior college conferences. They were like a good JUCO conference last year, and they got plucked away from the good JUCO, and they're going to a bigger D1 school. So. That's just where we're at now. I mean, you can be loyal all you want, but sometimes loyalty doesn't get, you can be loyal to your coaches and people around you, but at the end of the day, is the brand, should you be loyal to the brand, your college? Maybe not, but there's a lot of nuance there for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. And I was talking to some players here on the East Coast, Shane Simpson, who played at Towson, who transferred to Virginia, and I asked him during his pro day a couple of weeks ago, would you stay at Towson if Towson had a season? And he goes, yeah, I was planning on staying until they decided to opt out. And I wanted to finish my career in a Division Power 5 school, and I wanted you to see how my talent was. And that's what most of these people are doing. They're going to big Power 5 schools to see if their talent is so good to get into the next level.
Yeah. No. I think I don't know. I mean, personally, I would try. It'd be hard. I mean, if I was a dude, I wasn't a Division I athlete. I played on the bench at an NAIA school. So if I was good enough if I was so good at my NAIA school to where I was kicking everyone's ass, and then like the D1 school where I grew up was like, dude, you can play here, I would go in a heartbeat, Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of these fans get wrapped up in their own, these coaches and they all invested in it. But I mean, human at some point, human nature kicks in, and you kind of have to just kind of let it ride.
Exactly.
Ryan, in 3 of the games this year, North Dakota State has rushed for over 200 yards. Will that be the case again this weekend?
I'd bet on it. Mm-hmm. The University of Idaho rushed for almost 300 yards on them last week on Eastern. So
yeah, you know what? I look at the numbers, Ryan, and this team is just, putting up, 40 points a game. And then I look at the point spread from Vegas and I'm like, only a touchdown favorite. Again, but you know what? Do you think that they'll have success throwing the ball? North Dakota State looks like at times they can be vulnerable in the passing game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think Eastern can move the ball on them for sure. I think, but Eastern, their red zone offense isn't always great. So we'll see. But I think Eastern can chug up the field. North Dakota State. The thing is, plus North Dakota State played against some pretty good teams too. They played against way better competition than Eastern did. So I try to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I think Eastern, they have some talent. Objectively, there's talent on Eastern's offense, and I think they can utilize it. But if Eric Berrier is just watching from the sidelines while North Dakota State's getting 3 or 4 yards a pop, it might be a little different.
Exactly. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for coming on this evening. Thanks for your insights with Eastern Washington. Be safe this weekend if you're going to the game or you're staying home watching it on Zoom, and have fun. And we'll try to catch up with you down the road.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ryan. He's a good man.
Yes, he is.
Let's visit him and go skiing out in Idaho sometime, buddy.
I know. We should go. We all should go skiing.
I don't know if George's old lady will let him out. We got to get the okay. You and I could do what we want, Herbie. Well, not really. You sort of got to go through some. I can do whatever I want. Let me just say that, George Bashara.
Well, folks, if you want to go to our Twitter page, you can vote. I made a little polling question. Who will win the 2021 SEA Championship? Go onto our Twitter page. Right now, it's 75. I put the thing is North Dakota State, JMU, Delaware, or other. Other is kicking everybody's butt right now.
I'm going JMU. I think they come in with a chip on their shoulders, George.
I'm going with the other ND school.
Oh, you're going with just North Dakota. Wow.
The Bison. Not Bison, Bison.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you for that,
Bison.
George. Well, I always say
Louisville and Louisville. You got to make sure you pronounce it right.
Yeah.
Get upset about that stuff.
It's like Lancaster. It's Lancaster. It's Lancaster. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I want to wish everybody a happy Earth Day today. I know everybody's out there making sure our planet is safe and, getting back to, hopefully some cleaner and nicer days ahead of us. I know there's still some stuff that we need to do as a human being to make this planet nice and neat. So I just want to wish everybody a happy Earth Day to everyone who is doing something for your planet.
Yeah, and this week was Happy 420 Day too, Herbie. I got some messages from some of my hippie friends around the country. Bill Walton coming out to the West Coast, so big shout out to Bill.
I gotta love Bill Walton.
Is he the best or what? We gotta try to get Bill on the show.
I know, I gotta somehow find a way. But here's the funny thing: go on YouTube, type in Bill Walton and a cupcake. And he starts talking about how great the cupcake is. And my brother Will told me to go and watch it. I'm like, okay, that sounds so funny to watch. And it's hilarious.
I'll check it out for sure, Herbie. Who do we have coming up at 8 o'clock or 7:45, Herbie? Top of the hour.
Well, Mike Paris is supposed to be joining us. I don't know what happened to Julius Chestnut. I guess the folks at Sacred Heart was traveling to Delaware. Like everybody was supposed to be here earlier to get their stuff taken care of. I guess something happened or something going down the road. I haven't seen him pop up on the video thing. So we'll figure it out. We'll get him on another time if down the road. And at 8 o'clock, Tom Deutsch will be joining us. The North Dakota, just North Dakota. The old, they used to be they changed their names, right? George, North Dakota. They used to be called a Native American name, right?
Oh, we don't want to mention that. Be careful.
Why not? It's okay. They're changing they're changing the Redskins name, and they're changing the Indians in a couple of years. So what's the big deal?
Are they doing it with the Wolves? Did I hear that correctly?
Hmm?
The Washington Wolves?
Are they? I didn't hear that at all. I know Daniel Snyder owns the whole team now after he bought everybody out. So
I saw something that had showed uniforms with the Washington Redskins with Wolves uniform. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I know.
George, I want to be the first to invite you and yours down to the Sunshine State, pal. We're going to have to get that sunscreen 500 out for you, but other than that, I got the cold ready for you, George.
I got that fair Irish skin, man. Let me tell you, it doesn't take much.
No. Let's go down to the Sunshine State and get burnt, without putting a sun can lotion on, and you forget about it. You're like, oh god. You come back.
I invited Herbie down, but he can't get rid of the old ball and chain, George.
I said that. No. I can leave. It's called work. I have to explain.
Yeah, I don't know what that feels like. I've been on the shelf for some time here, George. I got a job.
Get off the shelf, man.
What's that?
Got to get off the shelf, man.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I got my I got a couple of dollars coming in. I'm hitting the gym, losing some weight, putting that Grecian formula in. You didn't say anything about it's more black than
there. Yeah, it looks great there. I was just going to bring bring some suntan. I was going to bring sunglasses out this evening. I was like, wow, that was a little bright there. It's like, damn, Euan, where are you? I can't see
you. He's a little tan now that I'm thinking about it. He's got a little bit of sun going on.
Yeah.
You're a little tan in there, bud.
You can't see me because the internet went out again? What? George, come on, George. You're biting your lip, George. I know what that means, cuz.
Hey,
George,
I figured out something. We're not doing an evening show anytime soon because in the mornings here at my house, it's fine.
I know.
Like if something happens around 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, the internet gremlins come out and they want to start messing with me. Yeah.
Just when you thought the gremlins were gone, George.
I know.
I think I transfer 461 megabytes for my internet service.
Okay, I don't even know what to do with that, George.
I have. I'm not plugging anybody, but let me tell you, man. There's something that's saying about blazing speed for internet.
Jeez, I had to get somebody to actually take this laptop and put a chip in there to get 5G. It works fine in the morning. It's just this whole house. It just doesn't like 7 o'clock at night. I guess they want us to be old and turn off the lights and go to bed.
Tell you what, Herbie, instead of putting a chip in there. Instead of putting a chip in there, grab a baseball bat, do what you should have done years ago, and get a new one.
Hey, my dad and I had he was going to give me a laptop because I told him a couple of weeks ago I need my old laptop. He goes, why? I said, because if I don't get a new laptop, Euan's going to whoop my butt, dude. He's like, all right, let's see what we can do. So I'm over the house. He goes, these things are slow as crap. I was like, do you really want these? I'm like, no. So he goes, you want to go outside and play a little baseball? I'm like, sure. So I'm outside and just beating the crap out of one of them. I go, Dad, you're good to go? He goes, I'm good. Thank you very much. You got some of the crap off my table. Yeah.
I'm downloading at 443 megabytes per second. I'm uploading at 22 megabytes per second. That's lightning speed, folks.
Wow. I will. Yeah, wow, George, you're going.
And I'm powering 12 devices.
Whoa, 12 devices. What do you got? You got a football roster in your house or something?
He has Brian Kelly on his staff.
three cell phones, a laptop, 2 Amazon Echoes, an HP printer, a thermostat. Oh yeah. And a cloud picture device.
Wow. And a partridge in a pear tree, right?
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Well, let's talk a little bit about baseball, George. What are your early impressions of the season thus far?
Well, I'm not going to go with my derogatory comment about the New York Yankees. We need to talk about this stupid rule about putting a runner on second base in extra innings.
Yes,
How
let's talk about that.
stupid. We have ruined the national pastime in Major League Baseball.
I know.
What?
It's stupid.
It was 420 day the other day. What are they smoking there in the office? I didn't hear about this rule until today, and I almost
really,
feel like I lost it here.
Yeah, it's been going on. I mean, wow, really? I knew about it. Herbie, what are your thoughts before I chime in on the extra inning second base?
I think it's dumb. I think it's great. I just keep playing extra innings. Who cares? What, you need an extra runner to get somebody home so you don't have to. So God forbid you got to be home by midnight, or else your carriage is going to turn into a pumpkin, and you got to be like, come on, it's baseball.
The stadium. If you can't stay, stay. My tail end has never ever left a NASCAR race when I follow NASCAR, a baseball game, a basketball game. I am there until the clocks are zero or the last pitch has been thrown.
Yeah. Well, George, you're a better man than me because I don't like traffic, and if it's over, it's over. I'm beating the line. But let me ask you this, George. I'm assuming that you have the same thoughts about the doubleheader game being 7 innings. Your thoughts on that?
See, I haven't been paying attention to baseball. Doubleheaders, they did that last year, and again, stupid.
I think they're just trying to make it like minor league baseball because in minor leagues, they're
ruining the game. They don't do that in college baseball.
Yeah. You know what, George? You know what I don't like, George? I'm going to tell you something. I don't like the fact,
my attitude.
George. Well, that of course. I forgot, George. What am I doing over here? Hey, go Yanks, man! 6-10. What do you think? What's going on? No hitting. What's going on with the bats? Errors all over the place. What's going on, George?
One word: putrid.
There's panic in the Bronx. Herbie. But how about those Boston Red Sox, Herbie?
They flipped positions. Red Sox were in the dump last year. They've turned it around. The problem is New York baseball, and this is just the MO, and we've talked about this. You could put whatever star player from another team on the New York Yankees. They get to New York, you might as well just be frozen in time because they fail.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I agree with you because there's a lot of people, a lot of pressure in New York. Just as the guy from the Mets picked up from Cleveland. He had his first home run last night, and everybody's making a complaint like, he should be hitting like 6 home runs by now. Okay, it's a little hard when you went from the American League to the National League, and you don't play. When you were on the Indians, you don't play those teams every year like the Phillies and all that stuff. So it's going to take time for Lenore to get himself up and running. But like with Jacob deGrom, that guy is still filthy, man. He needs.
Herbie, let me hop on the subway from the Bronx up to Flushing and give us some Metropolitan reports. What's going on with the Mets? They're playing good baseball.
Until last night when we got clobbered by the Cubbies, 16-4.
Well, and that's not saying much because the Cubs suck too.
Exactly. George's 2 cents put in as usual, though.
Sponsored by what?
I love this guy, man.
Sponsored by the Cub fans that I follow on Facebook.
Hey, can you believe it, Herbie? This guy's so big time he can control his thermostat through his app on his phone. That's big time, Herbie. He's got a couple.
You know how I control my thermostat? I get up my fat butt over the thing to turn it on.
You and me both, brother. What's going on in Baltimore these days? How are the Orioles playing?
They're doing okay. They just got swept, by the Marlins. They lost 3-0 yesterday. Now they're home against the swinging A's and the Oakland Athletics, folks. We didn't talk about the Athletics before we bring in Mike Harris in. They won 11 in a row. After losing first 6 games of the year, getting blown out by the Astros, they turn around and won 11 in a row.
That is awesome.
That's pretty good for Bob Melvin and the gang there. So let's bring in Mike Paris. We could talk a little more about baseball and all that stuff. But the last time I had Mike on here, Mike, your Gamecocks of Jacksonville State was giving my Seminoles a run for the money on that game when we had last time we had you on.
Led it till the third quarter. Unfortunately,
I know. And I woke up, I was like, "Whoo!" Yeah, but it was a good game. So
it was.
So thanks for coming back on. So you guys won 9 games this year, and you're probably, and I don't know why you guys didn't get a higher seed because you have more wins than JNU and everybody combined. It's like, come on, give them credit. They did play 9 games, and they played during October when everybody else was sleeping.
Well, our league allowed us to play 4 games, non-conference games, up to 4. You didn't have to play that many, so we played 4, and then 7-game conference schedule. So I think the Citadel played 12 combined from the fall to the spring, and this will be number 12 for us. But nobody outside of the Citadels have played more than we have so far.
Mike, I want to ask you about how the defense is going to match up against this prolific option attack by Davidson. How do you see things playing out with that matchup?
Well, we played Kennesaw State in both 17 and 18. In the 18 game, we've got a few guys defensively that were.
Hello, Mike.
I think he's got a bad cell zone.
Yeah, I guess the gremlin got him.
Uh-oh. There, you got me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
Yeah, we thought the internet gremlin got you. Yeah.
I'm afraid there's a lot of gremlins around right now. We played Kennesaw in both 17 and 18. And they obviously run the triple option. We have a few guys who were part of that 18 game. And then in the fall, we played Mercer, and they are an option-oriented team as well. Theirs is not really a true triple option, but I think that'll help our guys. And we've got a couple of coaches who have a background in triple option going back to their older days in coaching. So I'm hoping from the standpoint of Jacksonville State that our guys, the Mercer game, some of that will carry over. I thought we did a better job in the second half against them. We did the first half. But, it's going to be different. Our guys are used to, most of the people we play spread it out and throw it. And they're used to lining up, really just going after the quarterback. And it's all about assignment football defensively when you're playing an option-oriented attack. So I think they're very, very similar to what Kennesaw State does. We'll just, see if our guys can truly play assignment football and avoid that temptation, just to line up and boom and go after somebody.
So, Mike, if you guys are to come out with this win, what are the 1 or 2 stats that you guys got to be leading in order for it to be a victory for Jacksonville?
Our bugaboo when we've had problems has been turnovers. We've got to avoid turning the country, 56% third down conversion. And believe it or not, looking at this one, they also have more fourth down conversion attempts than they have punts for the entire season. And I think we've got to get them in long situations, second and long, third and long. And Josh Johnson said repeatedly through the one key in his mind is the fact get the ball. We can't afford 3 and outs, so we've got to move it offensively. And when we get in the red zone, we need touchdowns and not field goals. Is what he has been saying all week. So I think those are some key things you got to look at there. We lead the nation in first downs, which I think is pretty interesting. But we have more first downs than anybody in FC football heading into the playoffs. So
We lost him again.
Yeah, I think the poor connection there out there and when he's driving. But yes, Jacksonville State is a very good team. I was very impressed against Florida State, the way their defense. I know Florida State had a freshman quarterback starting, against you guys, but I was really impressed by the way the defense was attacking the football and confusing the quarterback every 5 minutes. Even that kid was a freshman quarterback, had no clue how to throw a football. And I was like, looking at the TV going like, what in the world are you doing down there? So but you guys have a great defense, and I think you could actually make something against Davis and probably go very, very deep in this playoff if you can.
I think a couple of keys for us to make a run in the playoffs. Defensively, we have to continue to play well. We continue to need to force turnovers. And our quarterback, Zion Webb, the last 2 weeks has been very good. He ended up being the first-team all-conference quarterback in the Ohio Valley Conference. And we really need for him to play at the level that he's played at the last 2 weeks. He's a dual-threat guy, but he really didn't turn it loose and start running until the last couple of weeks there. We had the final 2 games on the road at Eastern Illinois, then basically a championship game, winner-take-all against Murray State at their place. And he had his 2 best games back-to-back in those contests. And if he can perform at that level, I think that makes us a tough out in the playoffs.
Yeah, Mike, I wanted to ask you about that defense. Your defensive man, DJ Coleman, has been playing really good football. In fact, the last 2 seasons, 21.5 tackles for loss, 13 sacks, and 41 QB hurries. Can he play on both sides of the line? Is he going to be a key to the game in terms of penetration and disrupting that offense?
Well, I think he can be, but again, when you play the triple option, it's assignment football, and he needs to be able to play his position and do some disruption there, but not do it where he's leaving a gap or leaving a hole or anything like that. So he's a guy that is a tremendous athlete, and we play about 11 or 12 guys up front, and the great part about that is these guys are interchangeable. DJ, like some of the other guys, can go inside and play defensive tackle, line up inside in a different technique, or he can from the rush at the end, and then he can go back and play in coverage. I mean, he is down the field at times covering guys out of the backfield or covering their tight end or something like that. So I think, the key again, one of them defensively goes back to forcing them into second long, third and long situations. Got to stop the fullback. That's the first threat. If they can establish the fullback, then it makes it a very long day in trying to stop them when they try to get to the corner and make a pitch. And again, the lack of familiarity with this offense, I think, is what they're hoping for in this matchup.
That's true. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on tonight. I know you're driving. Be safe driving. And winner takes on the winner of Delaware and Sacred Heart. So you might see Delaware in the second round, or up here in Delaware. And hopefully, I'll be off that next weekend and come see you guys.
We're looking forward to playing. I was fortunate enough to get out to practice today, and our guys, I think, have had a good week of practice, and should be a lot of fun on Saturday. I know Davidson's got to be excited. It's their first any kind of postseason game since 1969. So I know they're going to be pumped when they step out on the field.
They played in the Tangerine Bowl.
Right.
Yeah. That was, and I think they played Houston or something. I was looking at it yesterday and they got destroyed. So, that was
that's the last conference title they won as well. 1969 was that year. I guess the Tangerine Bowl was still in Orlando at that time. That's where it was held for a number of years. So I guess that's where it was at that time. So
a little trivia question now. The Tangerine Bowl is what now? I think it's actually the Chance Sports Bowl, or it was actually
I believe you are right.
Or the Cheez-It Bowl. The Cheez-It Bowl. Yeah, I think the Cheez-It Bowl took it over. But it's like you get some Cheez-Its after you win the game. That's fantastic.
Well, and also back to our game Saturday, as long as Steph Curry doesn't show up and start shooting threes from somewhere, I think we'll be okay too.
Good stuff, Mikey. Good stuff, Mike.
Good stuff, Mike. Good stuff. Have a great night.
Goals.
From downtown, he's on fire.
He's a fadeaway.
I think we.
Hey, you guys are in Maryland, and you may my age here, But a Maryland connection to Davidson is, Lefty Drizel is a former head basketball coach at Davidson before he went to Maryland.
Right. Yeah. And he put Maryland on the map. So, and then he got let go because of.
Did you realize that? Did you know that?
So, yeah, I knew that as well. So, Mike, thank you so much. Drive carefully. We'll talk to you soon. I think we lost him. But,
All right, guys.
Cut him off.
He appreciates us, George Bashara. He appreciates us.
Oh, yeah. We had a good time with him. Yeah. I agree with him.
You can't eat before the show. You lost a step from the dinner table to the show. You lost a step, Jordan.
Hey, I'm not in a good place this week, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm waiting to eat. Yeah.
So I'm trying to get.
Herbie, did you eat yet? Would you have some mozzarella sticks, Herbie?
I ate some hot dogs. I just put it in the microwave. Yeah. So. Yeah,
Chris, you gotta cut the beard, man.
I know it's getting a little ragged. I know. I saw that today. I'm like, I'm going to cut the sucker off. Yeah, I look
hot dogs in the microwave, buddy.
I look like Mr. Mountain Man. But I do have to give George credit. A couple of weeks ago, I went up to York, Pennsylvania, to eat at that restaurant in Pittsburgh, the one you had in Pittsburgh. God bless America. That was such a great place. Yeah, my brother wants to go up there with me. I was like, maybe Euan, if he comes to town, we'll go up to York, PA, and chow down some cheesesteaks and drink some beer. It's all Pittsburgh stuff. It's like all Pirates and Steelers and and they actually have some Eagle stuff in there. I'm like, why you got Eagle stuff in here? This is a wrong thing to say. Yeah. So so it's a good place up there. It's So 7:56. We got coming on here in a minute. So we got Tom Deutsch is on the other line. We're trying to get Julius to come join us. He just got stuck in traffic, that lovely traffic going south on 95 from New Jersey. He got stuck, so he's actually there at the hotel. So I'm going to see if I can get him on. So let's bring in Tom here. Tom's still here. Hi, Tom.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Doing good. Thanks for coming on tonight. Big game for you guys for North Dakota. You're actually in the playoffs. So let's talk about this big game coming up.
Yeah, it's an exciting time here. It's been an interesting season. We played our first 5 games of the year starting on February 20th. Beat 3 ranked teams to start the season, including South Dakota State, who we beat by a couple of scores, and they ended up being the number 1 football seed. And then we had North Dakota State in Game 5, which is obviously not a detrimental loss, but it was tough for our program. That since we had been playing well at that time, still played 5 weeks in a row without a hitch, and then went to. We were just getting ready to go to Youngstown State week 6, and had a COVID-related test that canceled our trip about 2 hours before we were ready to leave. And then, of course, as you guys know, that becomes a domino effect the next week. And then the team had the last 2 teams we were supposed to play, Illinois State and then eventually Youngstown, both opted out for the season. So played 5 weeks to begin the year, and then haven't played since March 20th. And played, like I said, played really good football at the beginning of the year. Beat Southern Illinois, was in the playoffs. Beat that ended up being about a 3 or 4 score game. Beat South Dakota State week 2. Again, they are the number 1 overall seed. Beat them by a couple of scores, and then beat South Dakota week 3. So all 3 of those teams were ranked. So we're playing at a high level. It's just been, is it going to be rest or is it going to be rust? I guess is the best way to describe it. As you go through.
That's true, Tom. You don't know about the rust because if you're sitting there for a while, not playing, it's going to take a while for people to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, and I think as I coached here at one time, I coached here for 10 years. I coached with the members of the staff, Bubba Schweigert, and I coached together for 12 different years. So this is my first year out of coaching. So I'm still pretty familiar with the guys and certainly the coaches. They've been trying to find the combination of in practice, trying to practice at a high tempo and get moving, but you can't beat yourselves up too much either. So still limited in any kind of live stuff. Again, when you have some COVID cases, which we had, it limits your ability to have a practice ball position, contact tracing, that sort of thing. So they've been doing what they can to be sharp. I know they're practicing this week. Just being at practice and talking to the coaching staff, they've been excited about that they've had sharp practice. Guys been fired up and ready to go. And then, unfortunately, you keep your fingers crossed that everybody, because the way I understand it, the NCAA is mandating testing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So there will be testing tomorrow, Friday. And you keep your fingers crossed that everybody stays negative, and on both teams, really. And that happened in the NCAA hockey tournament, then the NCAA basketball tournament. Obviously, some positive tests knocked out some games. So hoping to avoid that. And then once the ball gets kicked off, then everybody can breathe a sigh of relief, get ready to play.
Tom, what does Missouri State do that could give North Dakota trouble on either side of the ball?
Well, they've been very good defensively. They've had an interesting year. You look at their scores. They played 3 games in the fall. They played Oklahoma, and then they played Central Arkansas twice and lost all 3 of those games. And then they were 1-1 to start the spring, and then they won their last 4 games. All their games have really been pretty low scoring for the most part. So they play good defense. I think athletically, they certainly bring some things to the table on both sides of the ball from what I've seen. On offense and on defense, but it's obvious when you win a lot. They've been winning a lot of 55-48 shootout type games. It's overscoring games, which isn't uncommon in Missouri Valley. I think that's been a strength of their team, and then they played 2 different quarterbacks as well. I think out of necessity, out of injury, and out of maybe one guy's playing better than the other. So be interested to see which quarterback we'll see on Saturday, or we'll see them both from Missouri State.
Hey,
go ahead, Chris.
Hey, do you realize, guess who's coaching in Missouri State, Euan? Take a guess.
Tell me.
Bobby Petrino.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about
I found that out the
Petrino.
other day. I'm like, why is Bobby over in Missouri? I'm like, is that like he just left Louisville, got fired, and now he's over there? Wow. Yeah, I was like, geez. But Missouri was pretty good Missouri State before he took over. But, like George, we have seen Bobby Petrino a lot of times with Louisville, and you and I and all 3 of us here probably know what he runs.
Yep. And, it's where you end up, right? You bring it along with you.
He brings everybody. Yeah. But Tom, when you're looking at film and you're getting, this game against Missouri State, do you see a similarity what he ran in Louisville or Western Kentucky, or just completely a different type of offense because he doesn't have Lamar Jackson or whoever?
Right. I think I think what I can tell, there's probably been a more emphasis on staying balanced. Like you said, they haven't shown that they're going to drop back and throw 50 times a game. They've been balanced run and pass wise, and I think part of that has to do. They've got 2 or 3 different backs that are pretty effective, and then, like I said, they played both quarterbacks. The one quarterback, Struck, was actually a transfer. He was at Idaho State and transferred from Idaho State to Missouri State. I actually played against UND in the 2019 season, and so he got quite a bit of FCS experience. The second quarterback, I believe it's Johnson, is a younger guy that hasn't played as much as Struck, but they haven't been leaning on the quarterbacks to throw it 40, 50 times a game. I think it's been balance, and it's been defense, and it's been explosive in the kick return game too. I know the one kick returner, number 4, has got I believe 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, and so they probably all pretty balanced in all 3 phases.
Tom, how would you keep your players fresh and sort of not, they're banging heads against each other for about a month before this game? What would your approach be?
Well, I think the approach my approach would be and what their approach is, and it's mixing it up a little bit, where you're going to go a couple days of practice, especially on a week, which there was a couple weeks where they knew they weren't going to play that Saturday. So then they went a little bit more up-tempo type practice where you move around a little bit. Still probably limited somewhat contact because of depth and all the, potential concussion call things you run into. But I think that's probably been the keys. When you know you're not in a game week, you're going to do a lot more good versus good type stuff and do more up-tempo practices. And then when you get in the game week, then things slow down a little bit from a contact standpoint. Then it becomes more schematics too. It's been interesting too in that this is actually the third time that UND is prepared for Missouri State. So they were supposed to, if you go back to last summer, they were supposed to play in the opening conference game of the Missouri Valley in the fall of 2020. Mm-hmm. So they did some summer work and some scouting and prep work there, right? And of course, the fall got wiped out. The Valley got wiped out this fall. So then you fast forward and Missouri State played 3 games in the fall. So they had some on them. And then they were supposed to play them the first game of the Valley season on February 20th. And so then they did a little more prep work there, especially since Bobby Petrino was new and his staff was new. You're obviously going to have some different things from the previous year to the fall. So they had a few new things on film from the fall. Well, Indiana State opted out in January. So then the Missouri Valley shuffled the games around, the schedule around. So they went from playing Missouri State at the beginning of the Valley to later in the year. So then they actually were doing some prep for their April 3rd game when the COVID knocked that game out. So you might actually say this is almost the 4th time they've been prepping for Missouri State and they haven't played them yet, So it's, I guess that's just part of the course with COVID and how you go about it. So it's, I know you've never. I talked to our special teams coordinator, Sean Kostich, and he's got so many different cuts of Missouri State special teams from going back to the 2018 and 2019 year, and of course then you follow the Coach Petrino back to his previous stop. And again, when does too much information become too much information? But so it's been interesting that they've actually prepped for him a couple times, and now you ultimately got to go out and play. And I think that's made for an interesting week. But from what I've seen at practice, the enthusiasm's been there, and the guys are excited to get out and play.
Exactly. Well, Tom, thanks for joining us tonight. I know if you guys beat Missouri State, you're probably going to be facing JMU, so that's going to be another hard task to take on. But you got to go cross country to Harrisonburg, Virginia, probably for that game. So be safe, enjoy the game, and hope you guys have fun with Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, we will. And Bobby Petrino and an old Carroll College guy. He played college football and coached for his dad out at Carroll College in Montana. And Bubba Schweigert, our head coach, played at Jamestown College. So they're a couple of old NAIA guys from way back when. So they're reuniting a little bit. And we're excited. We're able to have 3,000 fans at the game on Saturday at the Alara Center. And those tickets are sold out. So it'll be a good crowd. People are excited. We haven't played at home since March 5th. So people here are excited to see our team play again, and I know our players and coaches, everyone in the program is excited to get out and play again. So excited for the opportunity. It should be fun to work with Jack Saturday afternoon at the Alara Center.
Oh, that's great. Well, good luck. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. A lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, let's bring in this local kid who, we got this guy from all the way from Bowie, Maryland, who is actually going to be playing against Delaware this weekend. Our good friend, Julius Chestnut. Julius, thanks for joining us. Let me get the guy's name off there. You're not the coach, but you might be one day. So, talk about you're a kid from Bowie, Maryland. How did Sacred Heart find you to go up there to play football? Because you got Maryland right down the street.
I don't know. I think my high school coach knew one of our coaches here at Sacred Heart and just got connected from there.
Yeah, we got some video here of you running. My God, you like to run north to south, right? Or you like to go up the middle? What do you like to do?
Either, honestly. North to south is just what I prefer.
Julius, you like to run where they ain't, right? That's it, man. North, east, west, whatever.
Yep.
Hey, you know what? I wanted to ask you. I saw some of your film, man, and I'm like, how is this kid not playing in the Power Five? No disrespect to the conference. We give love to everybody, Julius, but I'm curious, what did you work on with, obviously things were so limited with the pandemic, but what did you work on from last year to this year? I mean, you look stronger, faster. Take us inside of your regiment this offseason.
I tried to focus more on my speed. I felt like if I got that up, mostly everything else will fall into place. I ran a lot of hills, tried to run more in general. Lifting wise, it was no gyms open early in quarantine, so I had to build my own. Tried to do as much as I can, but other than me running a lot during quarantine, it was really nothing else.
All right. Hey, man, I'm a former offensive lineman, man. Tell me about the big boys up front. Tell me about your relationship with them. And what is your favorite? Herbie was asking you earlier, where do you like to run? But, when I was an offensive lineman, I liked cuts and counters. Do you have a particular favorite?
Probably the counters. Counters are I just follow my guys and just run right behind them. They pull in and I just wait patiently for them to move, and I just go.
Man, the numbers: 179 yards per game, FCS All-American, first team All-Conference. We've got to get you this playoff win, man. We need that spotlight. Have you looked at this defense on film? And if you have, what stands out?
Their linebacker core is probably their best part of their defense. But I trust my big guys up front to get the job done, and I follow them and get them out the way, and I just handle everything else from there.
Yeah. Well, Julius, you were born and raised in PG County, down here in Maryland, where we are. What did you learn living in PG County? Because I know Bowie is a good place. They have, a good place to live because you got the Bay Sox. You probably went there a lot to watch some games, a lot. What did Bowie, Maryland, teach you to become a man and get yourself ready for college?
Being patient. It's a lot of great talent out there in Bowie. I know one of them, Jared Patterson, I used to play with over at Bowie Youth Football. Just being patient. It's a lot of talent over there. When your time comes, you got to show your ability and do what you do. So that honestly was one of my major lessons from growing up there.
That's great. Yeah, and are you gonna have a lot of family coming up this weekend to watch you in Newark? Because I know it's just right off of 95. It's not that far. Yeah, it's maybe an hour drive for you guys from Bowie. Your parents are.
I think it's like an hour 30, but I'm gonna have a lot of family up there.
On a good day, if we didn't have bad traffic right here, you got to get through the tunnel and all that stuff. That, right?
I think go through Annapolis as well, though, over the Bay Bridge. I think you can go through there and get there.
Yeah, you can do that too, get around that stuff. So, what's the excitement playing in postseason football in the springtime? Because this time last year, we had the pandemic. Year before that, you were in spring ball, getting ready for practice, spring football, and now you're playing for real games, and you're thinking to yourself, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's crazy. I kind of like it because it's just like the spotlight's on FCS football and not just the NFL, FBS, and FCS. So it's just like we get a little more shine and able to showcase my talent more during this spring season. But freshman year going through spring football was hard, and coming here now is easier.
Yeah. A kid growing up in PG County, when you were little, did you root for the Redskins, or you don't want to call them that anymore? It's the Washington Football Club or the Ravens. Who did you root for when you were a kid growing up?
I honestly neither. I'm a Steelers fan. Nah, but my family's Redskin or whatever they call it now.
Yeah, like whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Wolves. Yeah. So, yeah, just growing up watching, did you watch anybody as a running back that you grew up watching? Because I know when I was a kid growing up, we had a lot of good running backs when I was a kid, like Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith and all that stuff. Did you grow up watching any of those older generation, or did you watch anybody like the new one, like Kamara, the guy down in New Orleans, or even people in Baltimore?
When I was younger, Jerome Bettis was one of my favorite running backs, but when I started to get older, I started liking Le'Veon Bell more and more. So I tried to resemble my game off of him.
That's
hey,
great.
Julius, let me ask you something real quick. And Herbie, I know we're up against it. One of the things that I really kind of decipher in young running backs is the ability to pick up blitzes. There's so many defensive schemes, and how would you assess that part of your game?
I think I do a pretty well job, but it comes from my offensive lineman, and my center makes sure that I know everything. Josh Sokol does a great job up there. The leader of the pack, probably one of the smartest guys on the field. So it's just like he tells me what to do, and if he sometimes he'll yell at me in the game. I got this guy, so I'll be like, okay, this is who I'm blocking. So yeah, they just let me know what I got to do, and I just try to do my job.
Right on, man. We're gonna be rooting for you on Saturday, man. We're normally supposed to be neutral, pal, but we're gonna go ahead and say we're rooting hard for you, man. Run hard, play. Just do what you've done all season long, and let the chips fall where they may, Julius.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Hey, yeah, absolutely. Well, we hope to have you back on the show. When you guys win and go to the next round, keep us in mind. All right.
For sure.
All right, Julius. Good luck on Saturday, buddy.
Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
So that's a great interview with a kid from down here. Yeah, folks, you could leave this state and go somewhere else and become successful. And I feel like I'm not a Maryland Terrapin fan, but I feel like when I'm doing the show and I'm in the state of Maryland, I feel like I'm just trying to have having a football program. I'm just like, why do you forget these kids? These kids are great. That kid is explosive. If you saw him in a Power 5 team, like in the Big Ten with Maryland, I think Maryland could have a good running game.
I think you put this kid on any team and they're going to have a good running game. I think he's that talented, Herbie. I mean, all the pundits will say, "Oh, we look at the competition, this and that," and I understand that and I get that, but the talent is irrefutable.
Exactly. Well, let's bring in our next guest. He is from University of Maryland. Did go to school at College Park. I'm not making fun of anything from College Park, but Matt President does understand what we're talking about. You're down in College Park for school, and you're looking at these kids coming to leaving the state of Maryland and going to Power 5 schools, and you're thinking to yourself as a kid at College Park, going, "What's wrong with us? Come on down."
Yeah, no, totally. I don't know how much I really followed the recruiting game as much growing up, but I certainly understand what you're saying, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, you're the play-by-play guy of Davison football, and people don't realize Davison does have other sports besides Steph Curry and basketball. We established that tonight on this program, that Steph Curry is not coming to the football game on Saturday to help you guys out. Yeah, he'll be playing.
Yeah, but the football team this season's really been special, and I know that they don't have the same history and they don't have the household names that Steph Curry represents, but it's been really cool to be a part of their journey this season and to watch them really take the next step in this program.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, speaking of the next step, I mean, been quite some time. I mean, I'm excited. I used to live in Charlotte, and I just moved down to Florida, but first postseason since 1969. What's the pulse down there? Is it just pure energy? And it's been such a long time. Matt, give us a sense.
Yeah, I actually just moved down to Florida myself. So,
dude,
just this week, yeah, I moved to Jacksonville. But I'll be traveling to call the game this week in the other Jacksonville. But no, they're so excited. This season has been so challenging for everyone. because of the nature of the pandemic and the spring season and all of the protocols that they have to adhere to. And the schedule that this team played this season is one of the most rigorous schedules that Davidson has ever played. They had a couple teams in the Pioneer Football League opt out. It resulted in them playing a team like Presbyterian twice. They played San Diego, obviously beating them and getting some national attention for ending that 39-game conference winning streak. They kicked off the season against Elon, a perennial CAA contender, and had them up against the ropes, had a really good shot to win that ball game. So it's been a team that's been tested, and it's been really cool to watch them and watch them play with passion and kind of experience this newfound winning culture for the first time.
Yeah, Matt, I watched this kid, this quarterback, Zion Webb. The kid can sling the football around the field, and he can make all the throws. He's a little undersized, but, how do you think the secondary matches up against the passing game?
I think that's going to be the big challenge for Davidson is if Jacksonville State is able to spread the field. I think that's kind of been the biggest weakness this season is Davidson doesn't quite have that sideline-to-sideline speed to match up with really athletic teams the way Jacksonville State at least looks like on paper. I'm hoping to watch them a little bit more tonight on tape. But that's something that they ran into in their most recent loss to Presbyterian, a team with a lot of weapons, with an athletic quarterback, looking to spread the field with some RPO stuff that Jacksonville State runs as well. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for them is defensively. I think offensively, if they stick to their triple option game and do what they do and try to shrink the number of possessions, eat up the clock, they have a chance to hang around and pose a threat down the stretch.
Exactly. And then if Davidson wins this weekend, they're going to be that first ever postseason win. Because they played back in 1969 in the Tangerine Bowl and got destroyed by, I think they played Houston, but they played the winner. Was it
Toledo? I believe
Toledo. Somebody, one of those schools that like what, but the second round matchup was going to be against Delaware or Sacred Heart. We just had the running back of Sacred Heart on Julius Chestnut, and he's a local kid, from Bowie, and you're from Maryland, went to the University of Maryland. It's pretty interesting seeing a local kid being successful.
Absolutely. It's always cool to see people from your home, and Maryland will always be home to me. I've bounced around to a lot of different spots over the last few years, working in sports, working in minor league baseball the other half of the year. But yeah, I'm always gonna, that Maryland flag is special, and so I'll certainly. Unless he's playing Davidson, I'll be rooting for him as well.
Maddie, welcome to Florida, baby. We're happy to have you, man. I'm over here in Naples, but I'll be spending some time in Tampa. But, Matt, for a number of years, we've been covering the ACC, and obviously before 2 years ago, Paul Johnson was running the option into the ground at Georgia Tech. But, one thing that he always emphasized to us when we talked about it, it's not running the option, it's the decision-making going in to run the option. And how would you assess the decision making from your signal caller? And how's that offensive line playing right now?
Well, let's start with Tyler Phelps. And what's so cool about his story is that he was inherited by Scott Abel. He was a quarterback who was brought in by the previous regime as a guy who was going to be a pocket passer and throw the ball all over the field. And he's adapted, and he's done that incredibly well, to the point where he's so comfortable and confident running this triple option offense, and he thrives in that decision-making role that you talked about. And so he'll have a game where he can run for 120 yards like he did against Stetson, and he'll have a game like he had against San Diego where he threw for almost 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. And so it's his ability to do it all that really engineers this offense, that gives everyone else confidence, that gives the coaching staff confidence in him to make the right reads and to execute this offense. And you compared it a little bit to Georgia Tech, and I think there's always a tendency to compare the Davidson triple option to that or of the service academies. And not that I'm an expert in the triple option, but to me, what Davidson does is so much more than that. I think that the prototypical triple option is a lot of pounding it inside, with the quarterback having the speed option on the edge. And while those plays are certainly in the Davidson playbook, they have so much more in the way of end arounds and counters from the slot back position and the ability to really motion teams to death and stretch the field. And they cycle in and out 5, 6, 7 different guys at the slot back position because it's so blocking intense in what they do. And so, yeah, I mean, it's amazing to watch what they do. He's so successful, to watch Tyler Phelps do it so well. And you mentioned the offensive line. I mean, it's a position that often goes kind of unrecognized, and I think for Davidson, that's a good thing. It means, typically pretty few penalties on the offensive line. It means that this year they've stayed healthy on the offensive line, which is something that kind of hampered them last season. And so, yeah, I mean, they do a whole lot of different things on offense, and as long as they can stay on schedule, they're awfully tough to defend because of all those wrinkles and because they make the decision of, what to take away, and they have an answer to that.
Exactly. Well, Matt, let's talk about you're down there in Jacksonville. You're going to be broadcasting the Jumbo Shrimp, or AKA, I think you guys they changed the name. The Jumbo Shrimp is the team, the AAA affiliate of the the Miami Marlins. I was going to call them the Florida Marlins, but I'm old school baseball. But just talk about being in Jacksonville. You guys have an old ballpark. I was down there one time in Jacksonville. I was going to go to a game, but a thunderstorm rolled in and kind of like ruined the entire evening for me. But just talk about have you been around that ballpark? It looks pretty nice. Old.
Yeah, I don't know how old it is actually. I thought it was. I don't know if it was renovated fairly recently or exactly the details on the history of the ballpark, but it's a really cool stadium. I just started this week. It's a beautiful backdrop. You have the Jaguar Stadium kind of behind right field and right center, and then palm trees in left with a bridge going over the river, kind of stretching out from the batter's eye in center across to right center. So it's a really cool view to call my office. Haven't really had all that much time to explore the city of Jacksonville just yet, between just getting started in this new role and trying to prep for the game this weekend. But hopefully in the next week or two, things will settle down a little bit. Although I guess on the other hand, hopefully Davidson comes away with the win, and I need to be overworked and stressed out another week or two. But either way, I'm excited to be here, and it's going to be a fun season. And we in Jacksonville and we as a baseball community outside of football and outside of the FCS, I mean, it's been a long time coming with the 2020 season wiped out. And so certainly excited to call some baseball again.
That's cool. Well, Matt, thanks for coming on tonight. Enjoy the game this weekend between Davidson and Jacksonville State, and hopefully winner takes on Delaware and Sacred Heart next week. And I know you'll probably not be traveling to Delaware because you have to sit. You're probably going to, because of COVID restrictions, you'll probably be broadcasting from a video onto a laptop. But it's always fun to see pipe in noise, when you do the broadcast.
I'm hoping we'll make it happen. I'm going to be there this weekend at Jacksonville State. I'm starting the drive tomorrow evening. We did do a couple remote games this year. It's a learning curve. There's some perks to you can identify tacklers a lot easier on the monitor. But we did have one touchdown throw against San Diego where the camera stayed on the quarterback, and I had no idea who had the ball and what was going on. So it's nature of the beast, but happy to be there this weekend, and I'd be thrilled if we got one more weekend out of it as well.
Nice,
that's awesome.
Matty present, man. You've been a gift to us, brother. Oh, you see how I worked that in, Herbie.
Yes, I see
that. Matty Ice, man, we love you, brother, and welcome to the Sunshine State, man. There's nothing but Patriots down here, brother, so I know you're going to fit right in, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. All right, let's bring. It's 8:39 here on the program, folks. Real quick, if you want to vote on our Twitter page, who's going to win the 2021 FCS Championship, vote now at HerbFM on Twitter, and we'll see how many people vote for it. And we'll next week when we do the show, we'll let you guys know who comes out with the winner. But right now, the winner of that vote was other 75% right now.
I'm going
So
JMU wins it all. JMU wins it all. You heard it here first, Herbie. Right here on Herb FM Sports Radio. You heard it here first. Kurt, my man, what's up?
I'm fine. How you guys tonight?
Doing great, Kurt. Thanks for coming on. You and I have been good friends for a very long time, and thanks for making some time tonight for us. And just talk about last weekend's game against Richmond. My dad was watching it on NBC Sports Washington, and he said it was good broadcast, but he was asking me about the quarterback. He fumbling the football a lot. So was he? I think it was around I don't know what quarter it was. He was telling me to score and all that stuff. He was trying to do his own play-by-play, but he did it best. We want you to do it. Yeah.
Well, there were no turnovers in the ball game, so Cole did have a couple of times where he may have juggled it or something, and we had a couple of other young men that juggled it, driving it down. But no, it was a turnover-free ball game for the Dukes. Just the one turnover that Richmond had in that contest, and it was a good college game. 23-6 was the final. It was one in which it had two very good opposing offensive teams going against each other. But I think one of the unsung units of this season this year, if you really look at it from James Madison's perspective, is the defense this year. Defense has played exceptionally well, allowing less than 10 points per ball game. And this is a Richmond team that came in scoring over 30 per game, and the Dukes held them to 2 field goals for the contest. So we can talk certainly about what JMU did from an offensive perspective with the 3 field goals from Ethan Radke, who became the all-time field goal leader in CAA history, hitting his 67th in the ball game. And he's got a chance to become the all-time leader in the football championship subdivision. And Cole Johnson ran the game very efficiently. Nothing real flashy. The Dukes threw the ball a lot early in the game, which I think surprised a lot of folks. Actually, it surprised me and my broadcast partner, Steve Buckhantz. But that, I think, helped to loosen up things eventually, because sledding inside was very difficult against that defensive line for Richmond. And it took that passing game to eventually get the ball down the field, one field position early, get those field goals. And when it came to the fourth quarter, the Dukes took over there, controlling it with the rushing game and the senior Persiaje Obase, who's on the Walter Payton watch list. He had a fine fourth quarter, and that helped to put the ball game away.
Kurt, you mentioned that defense, and I looked at the numbers, and I'm like, okay, I know it's a limited schedule, but still, it's very impressive. From your vantage point, is there one big playmaker, or I know this team flies to the football, the stats don't lie, but if you had to put maybe a key, would it be the front four?
Well, it's interesting. I think the front four has played a vital role in this, but to me, it's we were expecting Mike Green to have a great season, and he's on the buck list, and then I think it's been the step up of the linebackers, quite honestly. Kevin Azanama and DeMonte Tucker-Dorsey, those two guys have done a really good job and have not allowed a lot of big plays just because they've been so solid in the middle. And that's because of the front line's defensive play to begin with, because, they're funneling a lot to those two guys, and they've been making the sure-handed tackles. And they've been putting pressure on the quarterback too, just as we have seen from the defensive line. This defensive line rebuilt a little bit after last year with Green coming in, and they asked Green to move from defensive tackle to the outside to the end. He had to shed about 15 pounds to up his step and his quickness just a bit, and it's paid off, big dividends for them. But certainly don't want to say no that the defensive line hasn't played well, but I do think those linebackers have been, to me, a really good emerging story the way this shortened season has gone about.
Kurt, if we look at that offensive line and the ability to run the football, I mean, we hear from coaches all the time, hey, football at whatever level is still tackling, blocking. How would you assess this offensive line in the limited games? And I got to just ask you this, Kurt. When the seedings came out, I know that I don't really have a problem with it, but it seems to me like the Dukes, I'm just so used to seeing them in the upper tier that really nobody's talking about them really. And is that kind of how they like it, maybe with a chip on their shoulder going into Saturday?
Well, I think Kurt Cignetti, after the announcement was made about the the seeding, he said, well, they made the job easy for him. Now he doesn't have to do anything to motivate the Dukes, which is something that we rarely see with this program right now as well, because the culture that's established, they do feel like they've got to take the baton from each year and just kind of run with it, to use that old cliche. I was quite surprised, honestly. I was not riveted to the selection show. I was doing some other things at the time with some of our other teams that were in action that Sunday. And but when I saw it, I was like, what's going on here? And the main thing is, and I know it's difficult to make assessments across the country because of the way schedules have gone this year. But what took me back about it was that when the selection committee from the NCAA had its only national ranking that it was revealing to the general public, had JMU at number 1, there was no indication that it was making any changes from that until the selection show came out. Now, I know there are a lot of variables that go into play into finally coming up with the schedule. The one thing that we did predict was that it would be VMI in Harrisonburg. And so that, certainly has come about. So I think under COVID times, I'm making some comparison, going back to actually 9/11, because during that year, scheduling changed dramatically in the postseason around the country because of travel concerns. We still have travel concerns, but different concerns with our travel these days. So I think there's some parallel, some comparison 2 decades ago, but maybe that had something to do with it. But I would like to have seen the Dukes at number 1 in the country, but it's okay. You're still going to play good people. And getting back to your original question there about the offensive line, I have to give them kudos as well, because with the loss of Liam Fernandel, the All-American, on the right side, losing him was a big blow, you would think, but yet the running game has been just as good, even though he's been out for the rest of the season. We don't expect to get him back until next fall. So, Ryan Gillespie's done a really nice job. Trubell Wilson, 2 guys that have made the all-conference team. And then they have put some other guys in there, fellas that have been in the system but haven't had a lot of snaps because of the veterans in front of them. But they've stepped right up. And going back a little bit, when Mike Houston took over the program, and we were talking, there's always the talk about going up to the FBS and what have you. That's another subject matter. But in doing so, I asked some of those guys that were coming in from the FBS level that were coaching, what's the biggest difference? What do you see that would need to happen here? And they said, we've got to get bigger and more physical offensive line across the board, and more depth. And we're seeing that depth kind of play out this year in the fact that I don't think the running game has gotten as established as we would like for it to. But I think the lack of continuity of week in and week out games has had a lot to do with that. So when you consider those 2 factors, these guys are, they're coming in and trying to chip without warming up, on the before teeing off. Well, this has been kind of the case with them. They just throw them into the fire, and they've done a pretty admirable job, even though they haven't had a lot of a warm up time, so to speak.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about VMI. Neighbors down south. They're in Lynchburg, Virginia, or around that area. The Keydets. They won their conference title for the first time in a very long time. And you've been around Harrisonburg for 34 years. This is the 14th meeting between these 2 schools. Can VMI go toe to toe with them, or is it going to be JMU going to go on and take on North Dakota State, North Dakota?
Well, I tell you what you need to look at first of all is if you say VMI, it is a military school, and most military schools are going to run something like the wishbone. They're going to have a 3-back offense, something like that. This is not happening at VMI, quite honestly. When they started to win, I took a peek at them and said, well, what's different down there? What are they doing? And they're throwing the ball more than they've ever had. And they had the preseason SoCon Player of the Year go down 3 games in or 4 games in. And they get a freshman out of the Pittsburgh area, Seth Morgan, who comes in and he completes 78% of his passes. And he's got a bevy of receivers that have, upper 35 to 67 catches. So their running game, they've spread it out. And so it's a different type, a different form in which VMI is playing this year and in the most recent past. So it's a different for those folks that have followed VMI football over the years and followed the history between JMU and VMI, this is going to be a different game, a different set of skilled players for the Keydets this week. I always said when you're facing a wishbone, a team like that can score early, but then once you catch up with the speed of the game, then a superior team is particularly going to win out the last three quarters and usually dominate the second half. I don't know that is not necessarily going to play out this week because that passing game is pretty good, and it's going to be moving the Dukes from side to side. And it's going to be quick, too, in the sense that they go to the line of scrimmage so fast that you can't get in the substitutions that you want. So that's going to be the adjustment for the JMU defense this week is how do they get their personnel alignments in? They get their personnel packages in to try to counter whatever VMI wants to throw at them.
That's a good point. Well, Kurt, I got to ask you a question. I saw something on Facebook. You're not retiring, are you?
Semantics. I am actually retiring from James Madison University full time, but I am not retiring from broadcasting. So what's nice is that in retirement, I can do a little bit more of what I want to do. And one of the things I want to do is to continue to broadcast. And my primary gig will remain James Madison athletics, football to field hockey and every sport in between. So I'm looking forward to this. I was planning coming out of COVID to maybe go 5 or 6, maybe 7 more years in a full-time status. But the opportunity arose that they said, well, we've got an offer for you. If you want to look at retirement now, we'll be happy to entertain that idea. But before you do that, we wanted to let you know that we want you to continue to broadcast. So right now, they just accelerated my process, what my ideas were. And I feel very, very humble, but also very gratifying and privileged the fact that I get a chance to continue this and something that I really enjoy doing.
And he's a good fisherman too. I got to ask you a question. My dad's down there right now. What is the best place to go fishing down there? Because he's trying to find something to go and get something to do.
Well, it depends. It's interesting. I do like to fish, but I do not do a lot of mountain fishing. Most of mine that I truly enjoy is actually because I grew up in the Hampton Roads area. So much of my background is saltwater fishing and bass fishing down in up in the inner Outer Banks, if you would. So my favorite style of fishing is actually popping bugs for bass, largemouth bass. I try to emulate that here in the valley. There's a couple of I like to go to up at Bryce Resort. There's a 44-acre lake called Lake Laura, which is open to the general public. You can't put a motor in there, but you can certainly paddle around. And I do most of my fishing from a fishing kayak. So I like to go there and throw the fly rod out a little bit and do some jigging and find a few crappie and a few catfish there. And I do some fishing down at Smith Mountain Lake too. Catching some striped bass there. But actually, what I really love to do is get down to the shoreline and work the inner and the outer banks most of all.
Oh, that's great. Well, Kurt, thanks so much for coming on. You and I are good friends, and if you ever come up to Baltimore and you want to see an Oriole game, give me a buzz. I'm only like 20 minutes down the road, right off the 80. Head on down. I'll meet you down there for a game, and I'll give you a tour of Baltimore. I know you've been there. You and I have been there so many times, but I have some good places you and I could go to for some lunch.
I'll tell you, one of the things I look forward to is maybe catching some of those afternoon games there at Camden Yards, because then it's not such the late drive back. It's about 3 hours for me. So that's one thing I do look forward to, eventually catching some games like that and seeing some former Dukes or some former Valley League players that we know that have come through this system here in the Central Shenandoah Valley as well.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, we'll talk to you soon, Kurt. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Yep.
Okay, bud.
Appreciate it.
Oh, that was great. That was great, Herbie. Well, buddy, it's great show and good football on this weekend, Herbie. So I'm going to take it in, pal.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy. Hey, I love you, man. And we missed you down in the Sunshine State, brother. We need a patriot like you down here, brother.
I'll try to get down there for a vacation one of these days. So
as soon as I get situated, we're putting things in motion. Love you, buddy. I'm out.
All right. Later. All right, let's bring in we'll bring in Rob here. Finish up with Rob here. Rob Hipp, who was Sam Houston State at home against Mammoth College in New Jersey. That must be a long trip for those guys heading down to Texas. So, Rob, thanks for joining us. Euan had to get going because he had something, some family things to do. So let's talk about this big game coming up for you guys down there in Texas.
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate you having me on, man. We're excited. After the victory versus Incarnate Word, we were basically playing for seeding. And because of that victory, we will now have the number 2 seed, and we will play every game, God willing, we can continue to win at Bowers in Huntsville. So that is just an awesome opportunity. We haven't lost in Huntsville anytime during the playoffs. I believe 13-0, and we're trying to keep that streak alive. And so we'll see. Monmouth going to be a very tough opponent for us, but I think that we have the pieces this season. In fact, many people here in Huntsville and throughout this area have said this may be one of the best teams that Huntsville has had. And so we'll see if that can hold true. Got a lot of offensive weapons, and man, just excited. A great opportunity for Sam Houston as we close out the Southland Conference with the championship, of course, and now moving on to the playoffs. Very excited, man.
Yeah, and you're moving on to a new league. Are you guys going out to the WAC?
Heading to the WAC. We're excited. It's going to get wacky. But we're excited about it. It's going to be the largest conference of Texas football teams, so we're very excited about that also.
Wow, that's awesome. I love your coach, Coach Keeler. Him and I, when he was here at Delaware, we're only an hour and a half from Delaware, and he was such a great guy to talk to, and a great football guy. And I'm glad to see him being successful, because I felt like what Delaware did to him, they kind of rubbed him wrong and fired him from some apparent reason, because Delaware needs to realize this guy's a great coach. And now you guys have him, and you guys are seeing the quality of what he brings to a football team.
Well, you mentioned a great coach. How about 28-0 in his coaching career in home playoff games? I mean, just unbelievable. There, you've got the stat right up there, man. You already have it, dude.
Exactly. On top of it.
So, we're looking for our first FCS win since 2017, a playoff win, and so. I mean, you mentioned
Give it to Jefferson Howard.
Coach Keeler, all that he has done over the years. In fact, one of ESPN named top 150 college coaches of all time. He knows how to put together teams. He knows, most importantly, how to build teams that have a great culture, a team that has a family atmosphere. And I think we've seen that more this season than maybe ever before.
Oh, yeah, I think I see it. I saw last couple of years down there. You guys, you're supposed to take on Richmond, and that hurricane rolled through, and you guys really brought that, Huntsville back together. And, and I feel like he's basically now a Texan. He's not a kid from Delaware anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. But, he's rooted in here pretty well now. I'm thankful we have him. And I don't like mentioning too many names because I always feel like I'm going to leave somebody out. But Clayton Carlin on the defensive side, our defensive coordinator, I joke around a lot, and maybe I should quit because, he has gotten so good over the years that we don't want to lose him. And, this year the defense, our defense has been unbelievable. In fact, I was doing a podcast earlier today with a friend of mine that had reached out, and I told him, I said, someone in the community said, well, Sam Houston's doing good because they finally have a defense. And I said, respectfully, where have you been, buddy? They have had a great defense for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. They always have a great defense, and I think that's what Coach Keeler does. I think he strives on defense, and he gets good coaches around him to understand the system that he wants to run. And I feel like when he's running down to Sam Houston State, if you look back a little bit towards Delaware at the end when he was with Joe Flacco, I think he has some of that qualifications.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about Keeler, and of course the Southland Conference Coach of the Year. We're very blessed for that. We also have the Southland Player of the Year in quarterback Eric Schmid. We have the Newcomer of the Year in Jaquez Ezzard. 22 players named with all Southland Conference honors from this Bearcat squad. I can't think of a different word other than it's simply phenomenal.
Exactly. Let's talk about this game against Monmouth. They're coming down from New Jersey. They're probably going to be they have to leave probably today to get down there because the new NCAA rules of testing and all that stuff. They're coming from, all the way up here in the Northeast. I think Coach Keeler coached against them. I couldn't find any. I think I went to one of their games years ago, that Coach Keeler, and I think Coach Keeler blew them out there in Delaware. But this is a different type of Mammoth team.
Yeah, Mama, looking at, we've never played these guys before, to be honest. Right. I mean, this is our first time for Sam Houston playing them. They're ranked number 10 for a reason in Stats FCS. We're ranked number 4 in that, finally moving up a spot. But we'll see. I mean, you've got two of the most explosive offenses in the FCS, the Hawks averaging just under 42 points a game. Sam Houston, of course, right near 46 or so per contest. They're in 4th. Again, I think that it's going to be a game that's going to come down to defense, and I think that's where Sam Houston really has the upper hand. And nothing on the Hawks, but these guys have not faced a team like Sam Houston this season. We've only played in 6 games. They've played in 3. They're 3-0. We're 6-0. But, man, as good as I, once you get to the playoffs, it's reset time, man. It's a new season, and both of these teams are hungry. But I think the defense from Sam Houston, especially their running game, at one point versus UIW, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, a week ago, but we had them at negative 31 yards. They finished up a little bit in the positive, but this defense has just been amazing to watch against the run offense.
Exactly. Let's just talk about, I had some people today, I made a voting question on my Twitter page, who's going to win the football championship this year, and I put other on there, and I got a lot of people from Sam Houston saying, go Bearcats, and even the bowling team actually sent me a message as well. I was like, okay, I guess everybody's on board here. So if you look at it, you think you guys have a pretty good shot. If you guys still have to go through Fargo, or you had to go through Harrisonburg, and I really want to see Harrisonburg because I think Sam Houston played JMU a couple of years ago and got ran out of town. I think they need to play a rematch.
Yeah, I mean, of course, if we're victorious, which we're hoping for here, and North Dakota State is victorious, we'll face those guys coming up in the next round. But again, I like our odds playing at Bowers. I like our odds under head coach K.C. Keeler in home games. Sometimes in the back of your mind, you say eventually things have to break, but we're not believing that anything's going to break this season. With COVID capacity crowd, we're expecting a sellout here in Huntsville. And that's something else that I wanted to mention is we have really, at our radio station, a 101.7 KSAM, we've really tried to be involved in the community this year, really kicking things up a notch. And we're encouraging people, come out and support the Cats at home. They need you. We saw great numbers during basketball season at Johnson Coliseum, and we're seeing that with Bowers as well. So there's something new in the air, man. Maybe it's the cold front that blew through. It's a little bit chillier down here in Huntsville. Maybe that's what it is. But it's a good time to be a Bearcat.
Yeah, it's pretty chilly. It's 55 degrees here. Yesterday it was close to 70, and the cold front, I was like, whoa. And we had snow here this morning, for like snow showers, and that's like not heard of in late April here in Maryland. Come on now. That's weird.
Well, you had mentioned earlier talking about head coach Keeler back when he was the head coach at Delaware in 2007. That was when Keeler and the Blue Hens won the matchup versus Monmouth 42-7. And of course, you go up against Super Bowl winning quarterback then before the NFL, Joe Flacco. So again, I go back, man. I like our chances at home. I like our chances at Bowers. There's just something special this year. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I always say the old phrase, don't put the cart in front of the horse, but there's just something really special here this season. And we got a guy named Jaquez Ezzard that has literally came out of nowhere. And this young man has been a force. When you have a player of that caliber at wide receiver, as well as anybody that guy is going to get double teamed. That's going to open up the passing lanes for other receivers. We've seen it now with Cody Crest. He has came out. I had to do it, man. I made a toothpaste reference in that one. I said it's something about it's glistening. The toothpaste is glistening on the field here today. But this young man has been amazing to watch. And then, we've got 4 running backs who do a great job, led by Ramon Jefferson. He has been back there. We've had Donovan Williams start to show some light here for Sam Houston. So all of these guys in the backfield, the offense, the only really scathing part, if that's the right word to use, the only thing that's just been a little bit of a test this season has been our offensive line. We've had some guys banged up. We've had to have some of our guys move around quite a bit. But as it looks, our guys are healthy and they're ready to play, and that's what we're looking forward to. That's great. I just want to see a rematch between I just want to see Coach Keeler take on his old school Delaware and just beat him. Just to say, hey, you ran me out of town, and this is what you get. That's what I feel like you guys should do. Just schedule Delaware versus Sam Houston State game and
put it in a neutral site and, like bring it to Baltimore or something like that, make it get more people in there and have some fun with it.
Well, I think that like I said, I go back. Keeler's done such a great job here at Sam Houston. He has built a culture. He's built a winning culture, and there's truly a family atmosphere. I talked earlier about defensive coordinator Carlin, and it was so great after the UIW game in San Antonio last week to see all of his players go up and give him a hug. In fact, I captured a video as we were calling that game. I captured a little video on my phone and put that on Twitter, and it's been shared quite a bit. But it just goes to show you how much respect these young men have for their coaching staff. And that's all started from the top. I talk a lot about Keeler, but it would be wrong of me not to mention the staff and the administration at Sam Houston and the fine work that they have done. We have been so blessed with so many great guys. Of course, our athletic director, Coach Bobby Williams, he has done such a great job over the years at Sam Houston as well. He finds the right people, and they find a way to win, and that's what it's about. The culture has simply been wonderful and beautiful to watch.
Exactly. Well, Rob, good luck with the broadcast this weekend. I know it's 12 noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central time, so getting a lot of football on Saturday for folks who are dying to watch some spring football.
Yeah, man, eat them up, cats. That's what we say down here in Huntsville, Texas. And, I mentioned the WAC. Well, maybe 5 years from now, FBS, that's where the WAC wants to go. So I want to see us leave Southland with a bang. Nothing on the Southland, but we're looking forward to being in the WAC and excited about the future of this program. The school is growing, and we're just going to keep rocking and rolling, my brother. I appreciate you.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
You bet. God bless you, buddy. Thanks for all you do.
All right, see you. You too. Bye. And let's get him on. He's done. Well, folks, thanks for joining us this evening. We had a great time previewing sorry for all the glitches we had, a little here and there, hiccups with the gremlins and all that stuff around here. But we'll be back on. We're going to be next Tuesday morning, April 27th at 11 a.m. will be our next Uski and Herbie show. We'll be diving into the NFL draft. We got some people from the Bengals and Falcons and all that stuff who covers those teams. We'll talk about them. Who are they going to be picking? Plus, we'll dive in and talk about interviews I had with Travis Etienne and some Florida State players like Samuel, who's going to be a top safety this time next week, being drafted in the NFL. So before you go, folks, vote right now. Who's going to win the football championship series championships this year? Go right now. Vote right now. Right now in the office, right now it's 66% is other, and everybody else is 11.1%. So have a great time, everybody. Have a great evening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next Tuesday morning at 11 a.m.